Canada. Welcome back to episode of Question Period. Today's December 2nd, 2025. I actually wasn't going to stream today. I'm feeling a little sick. So I've got my trusted tea here instead of coffee. And the only reason I am streaming is because I found a absolutely insane speech from the Parliamentary Press Gallery that I need to share. I absolutely need to share it. It's funny. It's funnier than Pierre. This speech that we're going to watch soon is funnier than Pierre Poilievre's speech. And that's the reason I'm streaming today. I didn't want to stream. I'd rather go lay on the couch and be sick with my family than do this, but this is pretty good. So we're going to take a look at it. We're going to get to it after we take a look at some other news, because there's some stuff that's going on in Canada. And then, of course, question period is going to start in 30-ish, 45 minutes, something like that. So all I ask in return, you guys know where this is going, is for you to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, because, well, there's going to be quite a bit of stuff that we're going to take a look at. Starting off with some CBC propaganda, of course. Let's have a look.
Some of the most powerful voices in American industry are weighing in on whether the U.S. should keep its free trade deal with Canada and Mexico this week. The federal U.S. Trade Office is holding public hearings starting Wednesday as part of the mandatory review of the CUSMA trade deal next year. There's been over 1,500 submissions in advance, including from the U.S. National Association of Manufacturers, which says CUSMA, quote, is the most pro-U.S. manufacturing trade agreement in history. Automaker Ford goes even further, saying that under a renewed deal, Trump's sector-specific tariffs on goods like steel and aluminum should only apply to countries outside North America. But some U.S. players are asking for concessions from Canada, too, like the International Dairy Foods Association, which calls on Washington to fix the broken access for U.S. dairy exports to Canada. So, will these hearings help or hinder Canada's pursuit of a renewed free trade deal with the U.S.? Julian Karagesian is a former special advisor on international trade to the Ministry of Finance and a visiting lecturer on economics at McGill University. He's with me in studio. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Now, you've read not all 1,500. Well, no. I'm going to call you out here, but more than 50 of these submissions to the U.S. Trade Representative. Yeah. What was your big picture takeaway for how much support there is for Canada?
I would say the overwhelming majority of the submissions I read, so I picked 25 on purpose, okay, and I picked 25 randomly, and the overwhelming majority are in favor of maintaining some form of free trade within North America.
And in terms of the argument that they are making, what would we want to know about that?
If you look at one of the biggest associations out there that's big business, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, they're making the argument that all three countries benefit massively from the specialization that trade allows, that the supply chain integration, the competitiveness vis-a-vis the rest of the world. As you mentioned Ford. Ford mentioned that 80% of their vehicles are assembled in the United States, and then they benefit immensely from supply chain integration with both Canada and Mexico. You have the spirits associations of the United States, the whiskey association. They
want to get back in on those shelves, right?
Oh, yes, they do. And even.
But the thing is that America wants to be the manufacturer of the world like they once used to be. Right now it's China. China makes everything for us. They assemble so many things for us, all our trinkets, all our toys, all our gadgets, everything. In America, well, Trump wants to bring that back to America. And I have to agree that that's probably in our best interest, because with the rise of technology, with the rise of AI, with the rise of spyware, all that stuff, having China make all of our stuff is probably not the best thing. Of course, if Canada can make some stuff too, that would be incredible, but that's not our market. That's not our sector. We're forest, we're lumber, we're oil and gas, we're gold, like we're resources in the ground. So we don't really have a say in that. Like, we can want to be other things, but we thrive in certain things, and we should focus on the things that we thrive on.
In like the Sunflower Association, there's so many different submissions.
That's sort of, that's, I suppose, I want to laugh because it's surprising, but it also speaks to the breadth of the impact that we're seeing of some of these tariffs. The manufacturing group who called the deal the most supportive of its sector in history represents 14,000 companies. Yeah. How much sway can they hope, or can we hope, that they would have with the president?
I mean, they were careful to point out that they have companies in every state of the union, and that $3 trillion of the United States, $31 trillion of GDP is affected by trade and is represented by their membership, and that, you know, millions of jobs, 13 million they mentioned. So they have sway. Now the Trump administration and President Trump seem to have some kind of plan to disrupt the system, to short circuit global trade in favor of the United States. They want to re-industrialize the country and bring manufacturing jobs. They want to make America great again. But these associations and these big businesses that are American are saying that this is, very politely, they're saying this may not be the right way to do that.
Well, so this may not be the right way to do that to, let's say, a president who, tariff man, the most beautiful world in the U.S., the English language. I've used tariffs to end several wars. Like, he's not, unlike you, sir, I imagine he's not reading these things. And I don't know to what extent he's influenced by politeness. So will this make a difference at all? Well,
these interests are heavily represented in the former Rust Belt, or in the Rust Belt states, in the farming states of the Midwest, and both of which are hurting. They may be benefiting in part from the steel tariffs, but manufacturing jobs are in their 8th or 9th month of decline. The farming states of the Midwest are hurting from the trade war with China. So it's not clear, at least in the immediate to short term, that President Trump's plan is working. He may make an argument that it may work in the long term, but I think if I want to read into President Trump's plan and those who are advising him, they may have a longer term plan that, and disruption may be part of it.
Do you think that Canada is likely to be better or worse off when we're done talking about the CUSMA renewal process?
Well, yeah, that's the key question, isn't it? I think that this current administration is not really interested, and they've said so directly to us, and they've said to Mexico as well. They're indifferent, they said, to whether there's a free trade agreement or not. Yeah. And so I think they prefer divide and rule, which would be 2 bilateral agreements, one with Canada, one with Mexico. And I don't think they want to do a 16-year renewal of CUSMA. Yeah. I think they want to do an annual review. And
I imagine that just means it's a bit hyperbolic, but endless instability, right? If we're talking about every year, a new chance to open this up, as long as Donald Trump or someone of Trumpian views is president, the disruption is near constant. It's worth noting that some of the young, under 40 conservative economists that advise the Trump administration, they say quite openly, and without trying to be pernicious, they say quite openly that disruption is their agenda. And that you have to make an omelet, you have to break some eggs. So I think what we're going to see, if the Trump administration can be convinced to renew CUSMA, I think they're going to try and extract the most concessions possible: critical minerals, energy, access to our water, dairy, and maintaining sectoral tariffs. Well, it is a useful starter guide, if an unsettling one, to this period. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk us through.
Man, Canada is just absolutely insane. America's doing what America needs to do to make America great. That's what they're doing. And just the other day, President Trump actually said that they're looking to abolish the income tax. Like, Americans won't have to pay income tax, probably under a certain amount, probably like $100K, $120K, because all of that extra money is actually coming in through tariffs. Now, if you hate the guy, if you hate Trump, but if you were offered an opportunity to not pay income tax, so what you get at work is what you get, no taxes, wouldn't you be like, shit, that's pretty good? And gas is going down dramatically in America, the price of gas. Wouldn't you be like, oh man, That's also pretty good. So the reasons that people have for hating Trump are becoming more small and smaller, and they're disappearing, they're vanishing, because America's doing what America needs to do to make America great again. And Canada is sitting here with one of the highest tax brackets in the entire world going, yeah, but what, right? But what? So it's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. But that's not the only propaganda we're taking a look at. That was CBC. Now we got to, of course, take a look at CTV.
Well, and I think this sort of speaks to, like what Brian was saying, Tom, about it may not happen all at once, but there's the Stellantis story, the other car stories. Like this is, just last week, if we can remember, a few days ago, the Prime Minister was making announcements meant to help reinforce a turn to the domestic industry for steel because they have completely lost the American market. And now this sort of they're confronted with this economic reality.
Exactly. And, because I was head of the NDP and we're very close to those unions, including the steelworkers, I know that factory. I've been there. I've met those workers. And it's heartbreaking. It really is truly heartbreaking to see so close to the holiday season on top of everything else, people just being said, well, what are we going to do? Because these are good jobs. People are trained up to them and they're held on. These are lifetime jobs in many cases. And then just 1,000 families facing that across, it's too much. I do think that the federal government actually got some parts of this right, because instead of handing out cash, a loan guarantee requires the company to use its own credit, but you're going to back them up on it. And I don't think that we had the time to build something where we could actually start giving grants, for example. And I think that overall it was probably the wisest course in a very rough sea, because you're trying to build something that's never been built before in response to something that's never happened to Canada before. The other thing was, of course, excluding steel from countries with which we don't have free trade agreements, essentially making it impossible for them to get into the Canadian market. We're hurting them, obviously, but we're being hurt so badly right now, and the proof of that is what just happened at Algoma. I'm afraid that Brian's right. I'm afraid that this is the beginning of something, but there will be far more of these cases. There's an old saying that,
There's an old saying that if you keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect different results, you're fucking retarded. I'm pretty sure that's the saying. Tom Mulcair is an absolute idiot, and the self-victimization that Canadians are experiencing right now is insane. Look, what's happening with all of these companies leaving Canadian land and going to America sucks. Everybody can admit that. Everybody can admit that. The 1,000-job layoff that happened at Algoma Steel yesterday sucks. That's not funny. It's not something to laugh at. It's not like, hey, look at all the families that don't have a job now and that probably go on EI. That's not funny. Stellantis, all these other, I almost said Stellamontis. It's from a video game. That's Arc Raiders, for crying out loud. Stellantis, all these other companies that have left, Crown Royale, all these companies that have left. It's not funny that they are leaving, okay? Like, it sucks. I don't think any decent human being is sitting back going, oh, wow. Yeah, no. Haha, that's funny, because now Canadians who have families and daughters and sons and wives and husbands, they can't pay their bills. They're going to have to stop renting or sell their house or whatever. Like, that's not funny. That being said, once we get that out of the way, that acknowledgement, we can actually look objectively at the issue and go, okay, this keeps happening. Whose fault is it really? So if you're shopping in Canadian Tire, Americans won't get this reference because they don't have Canadian Tire. If you're shopping in Walmart and you're looking at something on the shelf going, yeah, I like that. That's what I want. That's $50. And all of a sudden you get a text message saying that exact item at Target is $40. And you go, oh, well, Target's actually across the street. I don't even have to drive there, so I'm not wasting gas. It's like a 2-minute walk. It's a beautiful day and I saved $10. Yeah, let me go do that. Does Walmart then cry victim and go, well, hold on now, that's not fair, you're stealing from us? No, this is business, right? Business, money transactions. It has no emotions, it has no feelings. The stock market doesn't care about what you did wrong or your losses or your gains. It doesn't give a shit. Money and numbers are objective. And that's what's going on with Canada. Canada, businesses have certain incentives to operate here in this country. And then there also is a whole different set of incentives to operate in other countries, such as America. And if you can make the numbers work and it makes sense for your business, then why would you stay somewhere where you're paying more money for operating costs and getting less in return? Right? Like, why wouldn't you upgrade your business to the next level? And that's what's going on right now. And it sucks because our Canadian government's going, yeah, but America's the bad guy. No. Canada is the bad guy in this because Canada's not offering the right incentives. But free healthcare, shut the fuck up. Who cares? You can never see a doctor anyways. That shtick, that song and dance is so abused. Canada has free healthcare. Who cares? You can never see a doctor anyways. That stuff worked in the early 2000s up until maybe like 2018, 2019. And then after the pandemic, anybody who's bragging about free healthcare in Canada, you know that they've got like 17 boosters because they're so disassociated from reality. The perks of being in Canada right now are little to none. And most people in Canada that are unhappy with the government would, in the snap of a finger, up and leave and move their entire life to America if they were offered dollar for dollar transaction, $10 Canadian for $10 American, if they were offered citizenship, and if they could immediately have their quality of life, but just in America. But it's hard and it's costly and there's a lot of loopholes and you're going to a different countries. You got to do paperwork and it's not for everybody to go through that. So I get that. But this whole self-victimization of Canada, blaming America and blaming others, dude, either you swim or you sink. Like, that's it. That's business. Countries operate like a business. And if you can't incentivize people like you and I or businesses to stay in your country, then you lose. That's just what it is. That's capitalism. Welcome to the free fucking world. I'm sorry, but you can't force a company to operate in Canada and ban them from going to America. That's not how that works. And it's so annoying seeing the government and these shills for the government prop up this message as if what I'm saying has no validity. These people are just lying and they're trying to fester up hatred and animosity towards America and claim that our liberal government and our liberal leaders are somehow the victims in all of this and they're betrayed by companies. Money has no emotions. It doesn't matter. If I can offer you a product for $10 with this YouTube channel, but you can get that same product elsewhere for $6, your loyalty doesn't lie to me. Your loyalty lies to your dollar. And if it's the exact same product or very, very similar, and you think that you're doing what you need to do and save those $4 and get it elsewhere, then that's not my problem. That's not my problem. That's your decision, your money. You get to choose what to do with your money. The same as with companies, right? It's just how the world works. You learn this as a kid. And then Tom Mulcair gets on here and starts crying and is propped up by the entire CTV machine. Like, it's just so pathetic.
It's a recession when I lose, when my neighbor loses his job. It's a depression when I lose my job. Yeah. But what we're starting to see now is people going through that. And yeah, there have been tough times before. We've had 10% and 12% unemployment before in Canada. We know what this stuff looks like. But we've never had our closest neighbor intentionally harming our economy, which is what we're going through now. And I refer us back to our previous discussion. We've got to use what we've got, including our natural resources, which is this great blessing that we have in this country. Got to do it wisely, but we got to do it quickly, because otherwise the entire economy could start to tank.
You see
And it's so funny too that when push comes to shove, liberals who have been pushing this massive green agenda, like, hey, we need to be environmentally friendly and all that stuff. When we run out of money, all of a sudden now your precious belongings, the stuff that you said you would never sell, turns out that you actually don't mind selling it, right? Those little antiques, the china that you have in your little china cabinet in the living room, all that stuff. When you run out of money, you got no option. You have to sell that shit. But that's what's going on with our resources. And conservatives have been touting about this for years. Hey, man, we're sitting on literal gold, like actual gold, like real physical, tangible gold in Canada. Like there's a massive gold rush in Canada. We should probably be investing a lot in mining, but also liquid gold that, you know, makes the world go round. Petroleum, oil and gas. Come on, baby. Drill, baby, drill. You've heard that. Conservatives want that done. Just a conservative ideology, right? The values of conservatism. Use what we got. Don't wait until you're backed in a corner and you're broken. Now you got to sell great grandma's china set, okay, that you said you would never sell. No. That's what we're having to do now. Is we have to just find ways very quickly to make money in a panic. That's not being fiscally responsible. That's being idiotic. We put all our eggs in one basket. The basket now has a massive gaping hole in it. And now all of a sudden we're in a very, very tough position. And it was avoidable. It still is avoidable.
Also, the sort of disproportionate impact on the sectors that are being punished, right? That aren't covered by CUSMA, that have these 232 tariffs, like steel, like autos. Yeah. Lisa, I heard you nodding when Tom said he'd been to the factory. Like, this is a third of the workforce in an area where, as the union representative on, like as I was saying, he said, like, the community cannot absorb this. There aren't enough open jobs there. Even the ones at the mines, he said, are getting overrun by applications right now. Like, that is very consequential.
It is, and I lived through it in the 80s in Cape Breton. We lost the coal mines, we lost the steel plant, we lost the cod fishery. The island has never, ever recovered, and we've had multiple amounts of government programming going in there, and it's devastating to watch a town like Sault Ste. Marie go through the exact same thing. And this is where careless thoughts or careless words like, I don't care, from the Prime Minister is going to come back to haunt him, because those links are going to be made. They knew this was coming because we don't have a deal on steel. Loan guarantees are only helpful when the company knows they're actually going to have revenues to repay the loans. If you don't have revenues coming in, nobody's going to give you a loan, even if you have a government guarantee. That's what they're up against. And without having some kind of path forward on these steel tariffs, they're not going to have any kind of possibility of putting a business plan together to get the loans. So they need more. And I don't know what the government can possibly do. But I can tell you this, that whoever wrote those lines in question period today, they better go back to the drawing board, because they were completely unacceptable. To put the burden on the worker to have to chin up and get through it is ridiculous. This is a huge problem for our country. The Prime Minister has to stand up in the House and has to address it. This is the beginning, and people are scared, Vashi. This is going to be a crappy Christmas for a lot of people who are in these sectors in this country, because they're seeing the writing on the wall. And I just say, God bless you all. It's going to be tough.
Can you imagine if President Trump had said, you know what? Americans are suffering. Who cares? Who cares how they're fucking feeling, right? Let's just ignore that for a second. Oh my God, he'd be crucified. Like, the media would just not stop. Can you imagine if Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the Conservative Party in Canada, said that? You know, oh, who cares? Who cares? Who cares about that, right? Who cares? Who cares about Canadians and whatever and being fiscally responsible? It's annoying that he said those words, but what kind of sucks the most is that now we know how he actually thinks, and he doesn't care about Canadians. So it's hard to unsee someone's genuine self when they show it, and they can say it was a lapse of judgment, but we're seeing repetitive patterns of the prime minister and the Liberal government of how they truly genuinely feel, and it is very, very concerning. Very concerning, especially now that our back is a little bit up against the wall. We don't have an increase in revenue, even though there's a lot of commitments to it. If he starts bringing in more revenue, yeah, I mean, that's phenomenal. Sure. Like I'm not against it because it's the other team that's doing it. Let's fix this pony show, let's bring in revenues. But you can't start saying that you care about this stuff and then show through even if it was a lapse of judgment, that you don't care. You got to pick one, right? Because people, even though we all have kind of squirrel brains and we forget when the next crazy thing happens, when in the next few hours, and we're always swiping and watching the next video and clicking off, and there's just so much content, so much news, so much information at all times. It is very easy to just move past the fact that, our previous prime minister is a racist piece of shit who literally painted his face black as blackface. Like, where did that go? Like that's crazy. That's like grounds for resignation. Do that at your own work. Go to work, dress as blackface, and see if you can keep your job the way the prime minister did. It's just, these people aren't genuine. They're assholes. They just get away with whatever the hell they want. So when they say things like, I don't care, listen to it. It's not just a little oopsie. It's like a real thing that they actually mean, that slip through the cracks and slip through the narrative, and then they try to bury it afterwards. But I digress. I'd like to know what you guys think down below in the comments about this. Yeah, not looking good for Canada. Next up, we've got the Assembly of First Nations call for the withdrawal of Canada-Alberta pipeline. So this is the problem with this memorandum of understanding. Is the Liberals are like, yeah, for sure, we're going to get a pipeline going through BC. Alberta is saying, yeah, for sure, we're also going to get a pipeline going through BC, which is crazy because it's like they're not listening to the actual BC leader, Premier David Eby, who's saying it's not going to happen because, one, who the hell's paying for it? And two, First Nations. And now we're finding out that First Nations are saying, no, we don't want this. We actually don't want the pipeline. So, a lot of Indigenous people do like oil and gas. They do like pipelines, but it's a lot of chiefs. There's a lot of corruption in this. And I don't know, you can speculate forever. They want more money. They're environmental freaks. I don't know. They have their own agenda. I have no idea. Okay. I have no idea, but we're going to take a look at this article and the attached video and see what's going on. A pipeline to BC's coast is nothing but a pipe dream, says Chief Donald Edgards of the Old Masset Village Council in Haida Gwaii, who moved the resolution. The resolution also urges Canada, Alberta, and BC to recognize the climate emergency and uphold the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. In an opening speech at the Assembly of First Nations, National Chief Cindy Woodhouse said it was as if First Nations rights can be wiped away with one federal provincial MOU. Canada can create all the MOUs, projects, offices, advisory groups that they want. The chiefs are united. When it comes to approving large national projects on First Nations lands, there will not be getting around rights holders. So if I'm not mistaken, First Nations want their land and their rights to their land protected, but homeowners in British Columbia who get their property rights completely wiped out based off of old claims of yada yada ancestors who once upon a time may or may not have fished in said area, our property rights just evaporate. That's interesting how that works. Let's have a look.
November's budget was the new government's first chance to build back some of the trust that was lost after the major projects Bill C-5 was rammed through Parliament in 20 days without consultation. Last month's budget was also an opportunity to demonstrate through deeds that First Nations voices matter to this new administration. I wish I was here to say that we accomplished that mission. Sadly, the 2025 federal budget represents a significant setback. To be fair, we do recognize some investments for housing, We welcome measures to expand the capacity of the First Nations Finance Authority, and we were pleased to confirm that the $47.8 billion we negotiated last year for long-term reform of the First Nations child and family child welfare system has been protected. And so we lift up Minister Galmasti for her support on these priorities and her leadership in protecting Indigenous services from a 15% cut. We fought hard for that, but it should not have been so difficult. When the best that we can say is that Indigenous services is only being cut by $2 to $3 billion, we know that there's a problem, especially when provincial transfers for health, for education, and social services have gone up by 5%. Sadly, instead of closing the gap between First Nations and Canadians, this budget makes things more difficult.
It's this is pissing a lot of people off. This is going to create a lot of animosity towards First Nations if they continue to try to block nation building projects. Some things are bigger than others, and Justin Trudeau was right when he left. Canadians are very good at suffering. We suffer together, and we have to suffer a little bit longer. But when it comes to sacrifices, we all have to sacrifice a little. And that's not just for the white man. That's for everybody, including the First Nations, because we need a pipeline. We need the oil and gas sector to be up and running. And I hope it happens. I hope the pipeline happens, and I hope they agree to something relatively soon, because it seems like this Liberal government might actually just steamroll through and get it done anyways, which is insane, because Liberals historically have been way more empathetic to First Nations and negotiations, but so far it seems like Mark Carney doesn't give a rat's ass, which is kind of funny in the sense that a lot of First Nations propped up the Liberal government, as in like, yeah, they're going to keep giving us money and Truth and Reconciliation, and we could always trust and work with the Liberals. And then Carney's like, nah, not this guy, which is funny. It's poetic in its own. Very poetic. But let's take a look here at the Alberta Premier hopeful that BC is agreeing to lift the tanker ban.
The Alberta government is hoping BC will change its mind when it comes to the federal tanker ban. Coastal First Nations are opposed to the pipeline going through their land in the northwest part of that province. Premier Daniel Smith says she's open to working with British Columbia on a proposed route that benefits both provinces and First Nations. Smith's preferred route is through the north to the port of Prince Rupert, but there's discussion about another pipeline to Vancouver. Smith spoke to Canada's energy industry at a luncheon yesterday about where the sector's headed.
I'm sensitive to the fact that we don't want to see the entire coast of British Columbia that has extensive port infrastructure. I understand that, but we do have some existing ports that we can build on, and I'm hopeful that we'll have a constructive conversation about it.
Alberta has until July 1st to submit its pipeline application to the Federal Major Projects Office.
Man, I hope that gets done. I hope it gets done, and I hope we can actually move through with this. What will be interesting is how fast a pipeline can actually be built, because historically Canada is so slow at building anything that I would like for this to happen very, very quickly. I hope it's more employees than ever to build this in as little amount of time as possible. That's what I'm hoping for. But let me know down in the comments, do you think a pipeline's actually going to get built? Is it not going to get built? Let me know your guys' reasoning down below. Now we're going to take a look at, this is probably my favorite speech ever by anybody. I love this so much. This actually is better, in my opinion, than Pierre Poilievre's press gallery speech, which was phenomenal. He roasted Ottawa elites. The whole room laughed. The whole room gasped, and they were in shock. But this one here is better, and I saw it earlier, and I just had to share it. It's incredible. And of all people, it's by the NDP. Now, I know what you're thinking. No way the NDP has such a good speech. I guarantee you this is going to be one of the funniest speeches you have ever seen in your entire life. Here we go.
and members of the press gallery. My name is Don Davies, and my pronouns are broke and irrelevant.
The NDP are radical communists who pander to Queers for Palestine. The fact that he can make fun of his own pronouns as broken irrelevant, come on. It's the tip of the iceberg. We're 10 seconds in, ladies and gentlemen. 10 seconds in.
I was originally given 3 minutes for my remarks, but I negotiated an extra minute in exchange for propping up the Liberals, and an extra 2 for keeping the Conservatives out of an election.
Holy shit.
Jesus, Monsieur Blanchet, after that speech, I think I'm going to vote for separation.
I'm guessing Francois Poutine here gave a good speech right before this. Now, one thing I did think of as this speech, because I've already seen this, okay? I've already seen this speech. One thing I thought about was, it's all a charade, like politics. I mean, if you think back to how angry you and I have probably been feeling over the past several years, that is because of 2 reasons. And just stick with me. I know you want me to continue the video. Just stick with me, okay? Because it's very important. Reason 1 is we are actually getting screwed by our liberal government, like consistently, okay? But the second and almost more important reason is that our politicians are actually telling us to be angry. Liberals are telling liberal supporters to be angry at conservatives, calling them names, calling them Nazis, trying to relate them to MAGA because everyone in Canada is apparently mad at Trump and MAGA. And the conservatives are telling us to remain angry at Justin Trudeau, remain angry at Carney because he's Trudeau 2.0. And this is what I'm realizing. They want us angry, but they themselves are actually all friendly with each other. And I understand context matters. I understand they're here for a gala. I understand they're here for food and drinks and whining and dining with each other. But the way that it's brought to us is that the conservative MPs are enemies with the liberal government. They fucking hate them because everything bad in this country is because of the liberals, says the conservative MPs. And they just get us to be so angry. And I've been so angry. I have been so angry. I've been drinking the political Kool-Aid and I've just been so freaking angry. Now, let me ask you this. Your enemies in life, people that if they drop dead, you'd be like, they probably deserved it. Do you think that you could go and sit in a room with those type of people that if they just vanished off the face of the earth, you'd be like, they probably deserved it? Or do you think that you would be too angry to sit next to somebody that you actually fucking hate? The answer is always you would be too angry to sit in a room full of people that you actually hate. So this tells me that these people don't actually hate each other. They try to make it seem like they hate each other, but they actually all get along with each other. And as you see in this video, as you're about to see, as I press play, you're going to see more and more what I'm talking about. And it's just making me think. I don't have the answer yet, but it's just making me think about stuff.
Look, I'll be honest. The last election was tough for New Democrats despite having a hip, fit, and well-dressed leader. So in choosing an interim leader, we're going to go in a different direction.
Talking about himself, a fat, not good-dressed guy. Good self-roast.
Tell you it's hard to be a New Democrat these days, representing a once great Canadian institution that's been reduced to a shadow of its former self. Of course, that's something that our friends at the CBC table can relate to.
Ooh, the room didn't like that one. Except one person.
I thought you'd like that, Pierre.
Standing ovation for Pierre.
In fact, I lead a party that lost status so shockingly that some call us Buffy Saint NDP. Now, a lot of people say the NDP has alienated the working class, which I think is unfair. Rich people and professionals also don't like us. There's good news, though. The NDP just had our French language leaders debate, and it was very good for party morale. Unfortunately, that party was the Bloc Québécois.
They get off. Anybody speaking French.
Now, I'd like to address the allegation that the NDP is broke. Untrue. We've had our accountant split the numbers into capital and operating budgets. And if you don't add those columns together against our revenue, we will lead the planet in economic strength. It's an honor to join my fellow leaders here tonight. Elizabeth May is here, my designated driver.
It gets better.
You see, the funny thing about that is, to Elizabeth, the most offensive part of that joke is the idea that she drove here.
She knows she's an alcoholic, but she loves it.
Anyway, I'd like to congratulate her on negotiating such a massive gain to win her support of the budget. Getting the Liberals to agree to do what they already agreed to do and won't do was huge. I also see my colleague Yves-François Blanchet here. We all know I tried to get official party status for the NDP, but a big barrier was we refused to give the Bloc official party status when they had less than 12 seats, and then Jagmeet called them racists. Tonight I'm announcing new NDP policy. Never fuck over someone who put Je me souviens on their license plates.
Honestly, that's probably worth a W down in the chat. That's pretty fucking funny.
C'est un nouveau jour. There, I just spoke more French than the 5 leadership candidates did in Montreal. Now, Pierre Poilievre, I might have a small caucus, but at least it isn't shrinking. By the way, it's not the size of your caucus, it's what you do with it.
That's good.
In the end, I never did get that extra minute from the Liberals, but I'm going to abstain and let this night proceed anyway. It's what the voters would want. Thank you.
That obviously is in reference to the fact that he abstained. Some of his members abstained from voting on the budget vote, which passed the budget, and we didn't get a federal election. Holy crap, that's funny. That is funny. And I told you that that would be funnier than Pierre Poilievre. Because I genuinely think it was. I like Pierre. The version of Pierre that we saw at the Parliamentary Press Gallery was the old style of Pierre. It was a phenomenal, phenomenal blast from the past. But this one went after every other party in a way that, I mean, you didn't expect Don Davies to be this funny. And I think just kind of being caught off guard and blindsided by that is what made it so funny. Who knew the NDP had jokes like that and had self-awareness to realize that that they suck and that that they suck tremendously is pretty freaking good. But the takeaway for me when watching this is like what I said after the first minute or so played. Maybe I misread something, but to me, the Conservative Party of Canada, which I've been putting my faith in for the past several years, they've been mustering up so much hatred for other parties in Canada. Like, you should be mad at the NDP and the Bloc for blocking an election, and rightfully so. Like, I mean, we probably would have come to these conclusions and these emotions on our own. But the Conservatives, I feel like the politicians, they amplified it. And I shouldn't be singling out just the Conservative Party. All political parties amplify our emotions. They play on it. And that's the part where when I see them all together laughing like that, laughing at their own expense, yes, it's funny, but it reminds me they are not enemies, but they're telling me that they are enemies. And so when I see them not be enemies, it makes me feel like I've been taken advantage of. And I don't like that feeling. And so I don't have the answer to that. There's no like eureka moment, like, oh wow, I'm not going to, or now I'm going to. Like, no, there's none of that. It's just an observation, and maybe you feel the same way. But the next time you find yourself getting very upset about politics, just remember that these people, they can all wine and dine together on camera and off camera and be very civil. So when they get up and they stand in front of the House like this and they say, hey, that person opposite is a piece of shit and they're ruining this country, they don't actually mean that. They don't mean that, because they can all wine and dine and be fine with each other. And if they really meant that, then they wouldn't be that civil with each other. So next time you find yourself getting pissed, really angry with politics, just remember that they all get along. That's not to say that you should get along with all of them. Not to say that you should not get along with all of them, but just remember that. Just remember that. It's manufactured emotions to make us feel a certain way, to push different grassroots movement. The Bloc has a grassroots movement. Massive separatist movement right now in Quebec. The NDP had a bit of a grassroots movement and they kind of lost it with this election. The Liberals have a grassroots movement, the elbows up retards, and the Conservatives have a grassroots movement. And those grassroots movements are manufactured to hate the opposite grassroots movements. But all the leaders of all these parties and every members in them, they can all sit next to each other and be civil. Can you do that with your enemies? Let that sink in. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now we're going to take a look at question period. Don't get too angry. Don't get too angry, because they're not actually angry with each other. All I ask is for you guys to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Here we go.
Government that drives up inflation and the cost of daily necessities for all Canadians. Today is Giving Tuesday, and I will be making a personal donation of food and other items to the Fill the Crib initiative in Greater Sudbury. As a record number of Canadians struggle, I encourage others across the country to do the same if they are able.
The Honourable Member for Joliette-Manawan. Mr. Speaker, Jean-Claude Germain passed away earlier this year, leaving behind a cacophony of words, stories, and laughter that still echo in our ears. 2 weeks ago, a warm and colourful tribute was paid to him at the Centre du Théâtre Aujourd'hui. Playwright, screenwriter, writer, journalist, lyricist, historian, and so much more. With Germain, labels jostled for position like actors in the wings. Larger than life, he had a gift for capturing all of Quebec in a well-turned phrase. From Le Petit Journal to the honorary presidency of the Montreal Salon du Livre, he stirred up Quebec theatre until it spoke in joual and walked on its own 2 feet. I knew him at L'Autre Journal. Working alongside him was like taking a class where the prof laughed louder than anyone else in the class. His entire body of work is a mirror that reflects our wrinkles and our smiles back at us, and we say to ourselves, yes, that's us, and we can be damn proud of it. Salut, Jean-Claude. Thank you.
The honourable member for South Shore St. Margaret's.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to highlight an exceptional young athlete from Hubbard's, 13-year-old Asher Davis. Asher has been selected to represent Canada at the inaugural Pan American Optimist Championships in Buenos Aires next month. Out of 15 youth across the country, he is the only sailor chosen from Atlantic Canada, an incredible achievement and a proud moment for our community. A proud member of the Hubbard Sailing Club, he has been training tirelessly to meet this moment. His family and neighbors have rallied against him, showing once again how our communities lift up their young people and help them reach big opportunities and experiences. I ask all members to join in congratulating Asher today and wishing him the very best next month as he represents Team Canada and the South Shore on the world stage. Congratulations, Asher. We're all cheering you on.
The honourable member for Algonquin, Renfrew, Pembroke.
Mr. Speaker, the talented scientists, engineers, and technicians in Chalk River perform leading-edge nuclear research while also producing life-saving medical isotopes. Now this elbows-down Brookfield government wants to pay an all-American consortium $1.2 billion a year to manage Canadian nuclear laboratories. We know the Prime Minister has a financial interest in the consortium. Canadians have concerns about the American-owned monopoly having control over Canada's medical isotopes and unique nuclear analytic capabilities. The Competition Bureau has launched 3 investigations, yet the Bureau has been forced to obtain court orders to get the information that they need from this secretive, self-serving Brookfield government. Canadians want the Liberals to stop blocking the investigation into the deal. Canadian intellectual property and the jobs the technology brings will be lost if the Brookfield Prime Minister gets his way.
Here. The honourable member for Sackville, Bedford, Preston.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize an extraordinary achievement by Synergy, a local barbershop quartet in Nova Scotia. Earlier this month in Hershey, Pennsylvania, Synergy Quartet was crowned the 2025 Queens of Harmony at the International Harmony Competition, representing Eastern Canada on the world stage and competing against top quartets from across North America. This is the first time since 1993 that a quartet from Area 1, which includes 9 chapters across the 4 Atlantic provinces, has earned this title, and only the 3rd time in the region's history. The quartet includes Sue Kember and Jennifer Cleveland of HRM's Scotiaires Chorus, alongside Adele Merritt and Karina Garriak of Valley Voices. Their victory reflects the musical excellence that exists in our province and the strength of our women-led arts communities. It also speaks to the value of supporting Canada's homegrown arts sector so that talent like this can continue to succeed. Congratulations to Synergy Quartet and everyone involved on bringing home this well-deserved international honor. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for York Durham.
Promises and reality, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister's promise was a so-called generational investment to rapidly scale up housing to meet his target of 500,000 homes a year. The reality is that the budget watchdog said this morning that the new bureaucracy will actually only build 5,200 homes per year. That means that the Liberals are over 1 million homes short over the next 5 years and will only address 4% of Canada's housing gap. And the future isn't any brighter. Yesterday, the Missing Middle Initiative reported that housing starts are down across nearly every GTA municipality. But Conservatives haven't given up on the Canadian dream, the dream to earn, save, and own a home. And that's why Conservatives will incentivize municipalities to cut building taxes, spend less, and keep interest rates down so mortgages can be affordable, and scrap the industrial carbon tax on the steel, the lumber, and every single thing that builds a Canadian home.
The honourable member for Pontiac-Kitigan-Zibi. Mr. Speaker, today, to mark the week of remembrance and action against violence against women, I would like to congratulate and to show my full support to an essential organization in my riding, Mr. Speaker, Entourelle. Thank you to Giselle, Ashley, Christy, Alicia, Casey, Chantal, and all the stakeholders who accompany and support you in this essential work. You make a real difference in our riding with your courage, your determination, your professionalism. You bring hope to all women and victims of violence and intimate partner violence. So today, we honor you and your work, and we support you in everything you do. We stand alongside you. Thank you very much.
The honourable member for Portage-Lisgar.
This Prime Minister is riddled with conflicts of interest, and companies like Brookfield are raking it in while he is at the helm. That's right. Not only did the Prime Minister help his company avoid paying $6.5 billion in taxes, but they're now also Canada's greatest tax dodger. A bike shop in Bermuda? No problem. A couple of tax havens in the Cayman Islands? You got it. Anything to keep Brookfield outside the reach of the CRA. Ordinary Canadians are struggling to put food on their plates and a roof over their heads, while the Prime Minister's elite friends just keep benefiting. And his so-called ethics screen, it's mostly a joke. The Ethics Committee found that 95% of Brookfield's companies, nearly 1,900 of them, aren't included. If they perform well, the Prime Minister is going to reap the reward, so no wonder that he wants to help them. Instead of avoiding questions as he helped Brookfield avoid taxes, the Prime Minister needs to come clean. Is he here to serve Canadians or Brookfield and himself? Conservatives will not stop asking questions. We'll expose this sleaziness and fight to make sure that it stops.
Hear, hear. The honourable member for Fredericton-Oromocto.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to congratulate Constantine Paceras, a constituent of Fredericton-Oromocto who was recently awarded the 2025 Canada Volunteer Awards Atlantic Prize for his outstanding contributions to building a welcoming and inclusive New Brunswick. For more than 50 years, Constantine has dedicated thousands of volunteer hours, connecting people from diverse backgrounds and championing collaboration. En tant que fondateur du...
As founder of the New Brunswick Multicultural Council, his expertise played a role in shaping multicultural policies throughout the Atlantic region.
National leader, a role model for New Brunswick's multicultural community, and his unwavering commitment to diversity and inclusion continues to enrich our province. So please join me in congratulating Dr. Constantine Paceras and thanking him for championing multiculturalism in New Brunswick. Merci.
Oral questions, questions orales.
Oral questions, questions orales. Honorable Leader of the Opposition, Pierre Poilievre.
Mr. Speaker, I think it's bad enough that this Prime Minister has appointed a minister from the Trudeau years who ruined our immigration system and increased the cost of living. But this same minister this morning, the one responsible for heritage, says that he's had it. Says that he has had it with the decline of the French language. We're not fed up with it. We want to defend the French language. All those Liberal members, well, are they tired of someone who wants to defend French language and culture? The Right Honourable Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, the government has immigration under control. May I continue? Asylum seekers, the numbers have fallen by 1/3, and we will defend the French language with the greatest investments ever in the cultural sector. Mr. Speaker, the question had to do with the statement by his new minister who said he had had it. He was fed up with the debate on the decline of the French language. The Prime Minister's answer shows that we should all be worried about the decline of the French language. Why is it that among all Liberal members of Parliament, he has chosen to appoint someone who's fed up with defending the French language and Quebec culture? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I am for my new minister. I am against the leader of the official opposition, who is against our action plan for the French language, $4 billion. He's against the investments in the Quebec cultural sector. He is against the increase in Francophone immigrants to Canada. We defend the French language.
Leader of the Opposition. Mr. Speaker, we learned today that 8 months after the Prime Minister was elected, promising to build nation-building projects at speeds not seen in generations, he hasn't even begun consulting with First Nations people about his promised pipeline
First Nations
to
don't
the
want to even
Pacific.
go.
And now the Assembly of First Nations
They're
has
blocking
condemned his plan because he hasn't done any consulting with them. Today he will address the Assembly. Will he for once say one thing to no matter who the group he's speaking to, be clear that he wants the pipeline to get built and that he'll get the consultations done to make it happen?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the great thing about Hansard is you can consult it and find out what the member opposite said last week. In effect, would we ram through a pipeline? No, never. No, never. We will consult free, prior informed consent with First Nations. We will work with the province of British Columbia. We have conditions in the MOU with Alberta. We know how to work with the provinces. We know how to consult. We know how to respect. Does the member opposite?
Yeah, but they're saying no. Concrete no.
Transcripts are great things, and he just renamed Justin Trudeau's immigration minister to cabinet, the guy who destroyed our immigration system and helped double the housing costs in this country. And that minister has now had something to say about this prime minister's failure to consult on pipelines. He said the consultation should have started yesterday, and it can't be done on a desktop, making reference to his fellow minister's promise that they would do consultations by Zoom. So why is it that he didn't start 8 months ago consulting First Nations? Is it because he doesn't care what they have to say, or because he just doesn't want the pipeline to get built?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I recognize this situation is very, very complicated for the member opposite.
That's right.
First off, you have to have a pipeline project. You have to have a private proponent. In order for that to happen, we had to create the conditions precedent. We have now done that because we talk to the provinces. We work with the provinces. Mr. Speaker, in the Building Canada Act, which was passed before the member opposite returned to this House, we set out the consultation process for nation-building projects.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
So he's broken his promise to get big projects built, and now we learn that he has broken his promise to get houses built. He promised during the election he would double home building to 500,000 units per year. Today, the parliamentary budget officer revealed that his brand new bureaucracy will only build 5,000 homes per year. 99% less than he promised, Mr. Speaker, after Conservatives built well over 200,000 homes at half the cost today. Why won't he listen to us and stop building bureaucracy so that we can start building homes?
There you go.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the great thing about being a lifelong member of Parliament is you've never built anything and you don't know numbers.
True.
And you don't.
Ah, man.
And you don't even read the PBO report, which says it will contribute to
Holy
projects
shit.
containing 86,868 units, 130,000 a unit. That is what we're doing, Mr. Speaker.
I don't even know what to think of that.
Mr. Speaker, the only thing that member built when he was the governor of the Bank of England was the housing crisis in that country. And then he built a tax haven in the Caribbean so he wouldn't have to pay the same taxes he imposes on the Canadian people. Our youth need homes, jobs, and hope. This Prime Minister only offers them broken promises and more sacrifices. He even held a photo op in front of a house that was dismantled after he left it. So here we have a Prime Minister whose houses disappear after he announces them and promises disappear after he makes them.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the House in that announcement was sent to Nunavut. Nunavut is one of the territories of this great country. Nunavut is more than just a place where you fly in. is where we are building 700 houses under Build Canada Homes. Houses that are cheaper, houses that are more efficient, houses that work.
Hey, morale is high for Liberals today. I'll give them that.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly.
Wow.
Mr. Speaker, last Thursday, the Prime Minister
Who won that debate? Pierre or Carney? Let me know.
With Alberta, which is a problem in many ways. I want to ask the government, if it would commit irrevocably to not do anything in British Columbia without the express consent of British Columbia and First Nations. The answer was yes. But yet the announcement was made. Now, what is it? No, please be careful with the language you use. This is not outside the rules, but it might provoke a certain reaction, and one reaction can lead to another, and the two reactions can provoke disorder. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We respect provincial rights and jurisdiction. We respect British Columbia. It is absolutely clear in the Memorandum of Understanding that we and the province of Alberta will work together with British Columbia. We need an agreement for a pipeline. The Honourable Member. Now, when you want the agreement of one party to an agreement, you invite them right away, because the agreement the Prime Minister signed will apply even without British Columbia. So will the Prime Minister recognize that he has not respected what he said in the House, that he didn't show great respect for the truth when he signed this agreement? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, this was not a contract. This was a Memorandum of Understanding. And this has to do with conditions that are sufficient, but they are necessary. It is not the end of a process, it is the beginning of a process with Alberta, with British Columbia, and above all, a process with Indigenous peoples.
Holy shit, he's admitting that
the Honourable Member for
the MOU means basically nothing.
It's a piece of paper that he signed and which creates obligations. It is a contract. He can call it whatever he likes, in whatever language he likes. Given what is at stake with the moratorium on tankers, given issues with greenhouse gases, given the absence of an agreement with First Nations who voted against this agreement this morning, does the Prime Minister not think he should make sure that all parties should be able to sign this free, prior, and informed consent? The Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, this is a Memorandum of Understanding.
Yeah, an MOU is not a contract.
With commitments,
it's like
with
a letter
great
of intent.
investments that Alberta will make in carbon capture. The industrial carbon tax, 6 times greater. And also we are tightening rules in other areas.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, you can't build homes if you run out of the House.
Oh, Carney left. Carney ran out.
and his colleagues, I know that there's no singing in the House. So anyway, the
Wow.
has the floor now.
Mr. Speaker, it's very sad the Prime Minister does not want to debate how we get homes for our youth. Our young people deserve homes, jobs, and hope. He was feeling very cocky a few minutes ago until he worried that I might present him with the facts that the Parliamentary Budget Officer revealed today that his new housing bureaucracy will build only 5,000 homes per year, which is barely 1% of the 500,000 homes that he promised during the election. Construction is falling off the cliff. Why won't the Prime Minister stand in this House and debate it?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, for the record, the Prime Minister is doing his job, and now he's off to speak with the Assembly of First Nations, doing the job of the Prime Minister of Canada, not standing in this House doing quippy quips for Twitter.
We don't know when that now is, really, right? Because it's not necessarily talking about the present, but it's at some point now is a large concept. So the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
This is getting pretty good.
The Prime Minister could be debating. He's got plenty of time.
I thought the Honourable Member was done. He wasn't done. Sorry, apologize.
As I was saying, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is doing his job and off to give an address and consult with the Assembly of First Nations, not doing quippy quips for Twitter with the Leader of the Opposition, which I know he would very much like to do, as he likes to obstruct, obfuscate, and as he's shown earlier in question period, not have a single handle on a single fact about a single indicator about life in this country.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Let's speak about indicators then. I'm going to quote the Parliamentary Budget Officer. Build Canada Homes, the Prime Minister's program, is presented as part of the government's efforts to double the pace of housing construction over the next decade. That said, the government has not yet laid out an overall plan to achieve this goal. We anticipate that the contribution of Build Canada Homes will likely be modest and estimate that the program will add about 26,000 units over 5 years, representing 2.1% increase in housing completions, not the 100% increase the Prime Minister promised. Was this just another bait and switch?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, if the member opposite took the time to actually read the report, he would discover that the Parliamentary Budget Officer stated this will build 86,000 homes, affordable homes across Canada. This is the initial investment. I know it's hard for the Conservatives to understand. We're going in phases here. The initial phase is $13 billion, which they voted against in the budget. They're doing nothing to build homes, which matches the opposition leader's record in the past of 6 homes. So,
the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
That minister was literally the mayor of the city that became the most expensive housing market in all of North America.
Sit down, gay nerd.
Los Angeles, Chicago, and now he brags that not only will they only build about 2% of the homes that they promised during the election, but they're spending $13 billion to do it, Mr. Speaker. Failing is bad. Failing expensively is even worse. So rather than having the costly mayor stand up and answer for him, will the Prime Minister have the courage to answer for himself? Where are the homes he promised?
There you go.
The Minister may begin from the top.
Mr. Speaker, all across the country, municipalities are stepping up to make new housing available for some of the most vulnerable people in our community. Take the City of Thunder Bay, who just last night, through their council, approved a motion to free up surplus city land for 1,400 homes, facilitated by the Housing Accelerator Fund, Mr. Speaker. That's the work of a government who's behind communities, who's behind people. And here's what we can say about the Conservatives. They vote against the very people that need that help. Mr. Speaker, we're building Canada strong with municipal
for pointing out that we have voted against every single program that doubled housing costs in Canada. This Prime Minister created the biggest housing crisis in the G7 when he was the Bank of England governor. And now he's come here to adopt the same Trudeau-era policies of building bureaucracies rather than building homes. And he promised this was all going to change, that the latest bureaucracy would change everything. But today, the parliamentary budget officer proved that he'll only build 2% of what he promised. Why does this Prime Minister block homes and break promises?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, it's rich for the Leader of the Opposition to speak about this. As we all know, when he was Housing Minister and I was the Mayor of Vancouver, he built 6 homes as a Housing Minister. That's a deplorable record. And it's deplorable that the members opposite won't support a budget that has $13 billion for affordable housing, that the Parliamentary Budget Officer states will build 86,000 affordable homes. You won't vote for that, you won't support affordable housing, and that matches your historical record.
Again, through the chair, please. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, it was 200,000 homes, and the average cost of buying one was $450,000, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah,
the average rent for a one-bedroom was $900. This government came along and built bureaucracy to block homes and printed money to inflate their costs. They allowed mass immigration that was out of control, that ballooned demand, and left us with the worst and most expensive housing anywhere in the G7. And today, the Parliamentary Budget Officer blew the lid off their latest promises, showing that they will build about almost none of the homes that they actually promised in the last election. Why won't the Prime Minister stand in the House and take account for that?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the lid's been blown off, but the lid's been blown off the tired lines of the Leader of the Opposition, which he's been using for 2 years. He has systematically stood in the way of investments in supportive, in social, in low-cost and low-income housing in this country throughout his exclusive 20-year career in this House of Commons. He has systematically stood in the way of supports like dental care, like child care, like the Canadian Child Benefit, like school nutrition, the very things that he fakes and pretends to care about in this House, but would vote against, and Canadians know he would vote against everything with care in the name, Mr. Speaker. He needs to...
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, it is impossible for us to vote against affordable housing because there is no affordable housing after 10 years of this Liberal government. Now, one positive idea we could all agree on is to reduce the cost of the steel, the concrete, the cement, the glass that goes into building homes. But unfortunately, this Liberal government has an industrial carbon tax whose stated purpose is to raise the cost of all of those things. Why won't they accept this positive idea to take taxes off home building so that our youth can finally have homes, jobs, and hope like they deserve?
Let's go. If you haven't yet already, folks, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.
Yesterday, it was distressing to see member of Parliament after member of Parliament from the Conservative side vote against and argue against relieving consumers of the price of carbon, which we have, as you know, in this bill in front of the House, promised to do, which they voted against. Mr. Speaker, they will vote against a tax cut for 22 million Canadians. Mr. Speaker, something again that Conservatives like to talk about, lower taxes, but in actuality, fight against. So who are they really fighting for, Mr. Speaker? Because it sure is that the Canadians or the Conservatives I'm talking to in Thunder Bay Superior.
Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the industrial carbon tax is not just a tax on homes, it's a tax on food. When you tax the steel that goes into farm equipment and the fertilizer that is necessary to grow food, when you tax the food processor, you tax the food. No wonder that since this Prime Minister took office, food prices have increased roughly 40% faster in Canada than they have in the United States. Canadians deserve affordable, nutritious, delicious food on their plate. Will the Prime Minister stand up now and agree to get rid of the industrial carbon tax so that Canadians can afford to eat?
Well, first he's got to come back into the House because he literally ran away.
Mr. Speaker, here we go again with the imaginary taxes. And as my colleague just said, when presented with the opportunity to vote for a tax cut for every single income taxpayer in this country, they say no. When they get a chance to vote
The honourable member for La Pointe de l'Île. Mr. Speaker, the new Minister of Official Languages, the honourable member for La Pointe de l'Île. Mr. Speaker, the new Minister for Official Languages is already fed up with his mandate. Now, he's saying when people say that French is in decline, well, he doesn't seem to care, even though Montreal is becoming more English-speaking. For him, the defense of French is a boring subject which only xenophobic Quebecers complain about. Why did the Prime Minister appoint such a person as minister responsible for official languages? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I went to grade school and high school and CEGEP, all in French. I did my degree, my BA in French, and I have raised my children in 3 languages, including French. I adore the French language, and I will defend that beautiful language till the end of my days.
Yeah, most people don't really care that much about French.
Mr. Speaker, the minister really should be fed up with the fact that Quebec is just twiddling its thumbs when it comes to defending French. He should be fed up with the fact that fewer Quebecers can listen to music in French, fewer Quebecers can read in French, can see shows in French, because our language is threatened. Now, is the minister fed up for the right reasons? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, what I deplore is politicizing this beautiful language. I know that the Bloc cares about French, but what I'm asking is that they join with us, all members who care about French, and that they support our strategy. For the first time in our history is putting over $1 billion into defending French, and I will do so to the end of my days.
The honourable member for Parry Sound Muskoka.
CTV reports that 35,000 households have left the GTA last year because the cost of housing is simply too expensive. The Missing Middle Initiative reported yesterday that Ontario's housing engine has stalled. In the GTA, pre-construction sales for condos are down 89%, and for ground-oriented homes, they're down 65%. That means starts have fallen off a cliff, and it means it's going to be worse in 2026. So my question, Mr. Speaker, is when the Prime Minister told young Canadians that they would have to sacrifice, was he really referring to the dream of home ownership?
Good question. Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Mr. Speaker, we obviously face challenges in Ontario and the GTA in particular around housing starts, and that's exactly why we've got Build Canada Homes launched. That's exactly why we're investing in affordable housing at an unprecedented scale. That's exactly why we brought forward the first-time home buyers GST tax cut, which the members opposite have stalled since June. Mr. Speaker, we need to take action. We are taking action on this House. The Conservatives are voting against action on affordable housing.
Honourable member for Parry Sound Muskoka.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's 4th housing bureaucracy, Build Canada Homes, replaces Justin Trudeau's life-changing national housing strategy with less money and even bigger promises. We need 480,000 homes per year in the next 10 years to restore affordability, but the Parliamentary Budget Officer reports Build Canada Homes will only build about 26,000 over the next 5. So why won't the Prime Minister listen to home builders, housing experts, the Leader of the Opposition, and axe the tax on all homes under $1.3 million?
The Honourable Minister of Housing.
I'm sure the Liberals would take that idea for an election.
We've had a lot of engagement with the house building, the home building industry, with mayors, with ministers. We've done an enormous amount of effort. Members opposite can go and talk to people in the community, home builders that we're working with, who are supporting Build Canada Homes. We've just launched and opened the portal for that. The Parliamentary Budget Officers, 87,000 homes will be built as part of this initial effort. And the National Housing Strategy starts again in these years ensuing. It's a combination that will deliver affordable housing at an unprecedented scale. Thank you.
The honourable member for Terra Nova, the Peninsulas.
This Liberal government promised billions in housing spending, but today the Parliamentary Budget Office exposed that this program is exactly like the last four, an absolute failure. This is just another example of these Liberals promising the same old things and never delivering. Their new housing program is only supposed to get 26,000 homes built in 5 years, only a fraction of the 2.5 million promised. How will this Prime Minister tell this horrible news to young people? Will he simply ask them to make more sacrifices?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
Mr. Speaker, I think it's very important for me to point out that my colleague in the opposition from Newfoundland and Labrador has voted against every opportunity to help Canadians. Housing, food, school program, $10 a day childcare, dental care, on and on and on. This is nothing but a circle of tired notes. We need to work together. Canadians want us to work together, and I'll tell my colleague, Newfoundlanders and Labradorians want to see results.
The honourable member for Richmond Hill South.
Be able to work hard, save your money, and buy a reasonably priced home in a reasonable timeline. That was the Canadian promise. But today, the Parliamentary Budget Watchdog confirmed this Liberal Prime Minister has broken that promise. The report says the Liberals' brand new housing bureaucracy is nothing more than a shiny billion-dollar photo op machine, building only 26,000 homes in 5 years. That's barely 2% of the 1.25 million homes promised. And worse, the report says this Liberal government has no plan whatsoever to achieve their own target. So instead of lecturing young Canadians about sacrifice, why don't this Liberal Prime Minister just admit that he bulldozed the dream of home ownership, buried it under bureaucracy, and walked away with a shovel?
The Honourable Secretary,
Passionate, but unfortunately that won't make a difference.
So I couldn't keep up with the question, but I do want to say one thing. Canadians elected us to do big things, Mr. Speaker, and we are going to build a stronger economy, a stronger country. We're making the largest infrastructure investment in Canadian history. That party voted against it. We are going to be building roads and bridges, community centres, hospitals, and transit, Mr. Speaker, using Canadian steel and Canadian lumber. But the Conservatives voted against all of that, Mr. Speaker, every single part of it, against housing and against major projects, opportunities for Canadian workers, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the House, we'll keep building. We're going to be standing with our workers, unlike the Conservatives.
The Honourable Member for Montmorency-Charlevoix. Mr. Speaker, this morning, housing networks in Quebec told me that they are very concerned. There is a great deal of demand for affordable housing, but instead we're getting more bureaucracy. The Parliamentary Budget Officer has also confirmed that the Liberal promise of 250,000 homes will only lead to 26,000. That's 10 times less. In my riding, the average price of housing has gone from $205,000 to $400,000 under this Liberal government. The Prime Minister said young people would have to make sacrifices. Perhaps he's asking them to sacrifice their dream of owning a home. Is that it? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. It's remarkable to hear a Conservative member talk about affordable housing. In all my years in politics, I've never heard a single housing organization praise the Conservative Party. On the contrary, they've always voted against investing in social and affordable housing. And that's when they're not actually criticizing the entire concept. On this side of the House, we've invested $13 billion to build affordable housing like never before. Thank you.
Member for Burnaby Central.
Mr. Speaker, victim groups, police chiefs, and police associations, provinces, territories, municipalities have all called for a quick passage of Bill C-14, the Bail and Sentencing Reform Act. And as the hate crimes continue to rise, communities across Canada are urging us to move forward on Bill C-9, the Combating Hate Act. Yet, instead of helping advance this important work, Conservatives have been filibustering the Justice Committee, blocking witnesses and delaying progress. Can the Minister update this House on the impact of these Conservative delays and what needs to happen so we can get this done for Canadians?
Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
paying the price for these conservative games? It is Canadians.
That's right.
While victims groups and frontline police officers are asking for us to act urgently and respond to the crisis and the need of the time, the Conservatives are spending their time filibustering with nonsense speeches about cats and dogs, Mr. Speaker. That's right, you heard it right, cats and dogs. These are procedural stunts that they're playing in order to
Did I miss something about the cats and dogs?
Committee, Mr. Speaker. They're obstructing the committee from doing its job. When it comes to public safety, Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives have a lot of bark, but no bite. Yeah. They are saying...
I'm being gaslit right now. That's not okay.
Algoma Steel laid off 1,000 workers, and those workers remember when the Liberal Prime Minister stood on their shop floor in Sault Ste. Marie just days before the last election and promised to protect their jobs. But today, those same workers face U.S. tariffs, no deal, and now no job. And to add insult to injury, this Liberal government just gave Algoma Steel $400 million with no jobs guarantees, apparently, because now there's 1,000 Canadian workers out of a job before Christmas. So when will the steel workers get the promised protection for their jobs from this Liberal government?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Of course, our thoughts are with the workers at Algoma Steel. I've been in contact with the
Shut the
company.
fuck up, Jolie.
With the union, and obviously we know that the entire business sector of the entire business model of the steel sector in Canada is based on U.S. automakers, and obviously with unjustified and unjustifiable tariffs of 50%.
Oh my God, she doesn't even believe what she's saying.
This can't happen. So we've been
Oh my God. No, I don't want people to hear what you have to say because it's full of shit. No. Denied. Wow.
To protect Canadian jobs, and yet the reality is thousands of Canadian families are now going without their primary source of income because the Liberals haven't delivered on their promises. Softwood lumber mills are closing, auto companies are cancelling projects in Canada and moving them to the United States, and in Sault Ste. Marie, now 1,000 people have just lost their jobs at the steel mill. So workers don't need more Liberal platitudes or corporate handouts or broken promises. They need their jobs back. They need results. So when are Canadians going to get the trade deal we were promised?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Mr. Speaker, newsflash, we're in a trade war. And so therefore,
are we now?
Algoma Steel and across the steel sector in the country. And that is why we've been there for the...
Okay. The member, the minister
She's getting
may
fucking roasted.
continue.
Mr. Speaker, is it from the top? From the top or not? Okay, so Mr. Speaker, my point is
Let me manufacture my outrage.
And the company was clear today. If it wasn't for the $400 million and the $100 million by Ontario, the very existence of Algoma Steel would have been in jeopardy, Mr. Speaker.
Man, this shit is so fake.
Mr. Speaker, my condolences to the 1,000 workers laid off from Algoma Steel in my hometown of Sault Ste. Marie. My dad, Tony, worked at Algoma for over 30 years. The Prime Minister is squarely to blame for these layoffs. In the election, our elbows up PM said he was the guy who could get a good trade deal from Donald Trump. Instead of a deal, this PM said, who cares? And we saw higher tariffs on Canadian goods. The results? These layoffs and others. When will this Prime Minister finally get a deal with Trump?
L'honorable ministre de l'Industrie.
Mr. Speaker, I have a lot of respect for my colleague and a lot of respect for his dad and all those who've worked or are working at Algoma Steel. And that's why our priority and my priority is to make sure that they can continue to earn a great salary at Algoma Steel as the company is adapting to new type of steel for the defense sector and also for the housing sector. And I must say that our Buy Canada policy is also helping Algoma and other steel plants as we'll continue to fight for these jobs across the country.
The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-les-Échemins-Lévis. Mr. Speaker, it takes remarkable talent to somehow spend $15 billion and manage to create more unemployment. Food banks are struggling to keep up, but the Prime Minister prefers to hand out checks to multinationals, $15 billion to Stellantis, $400 million to Algoma. And what's the result? Job losses. Can the Prime Minister explain his genius strategy, which involves paying big businesses for them to lay off Canadians? Could you explain that, please? The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the House, we are protecting the essential programs that Canadians depend on. We are protecting the Canada Child Benefit. We are protecting dental care. We are here to protect and to help families. And on the other side of the House, they are voting against all of those things. The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-les-Échemins-Lévis. I think the member didn't understand my question. Let me repeat. Canadians are struggling to put food on the table because of the cost of living, and yet the government keeps taking money out of their pockets and putting it in the pockets of big business. This Prime Minister managed to find $72 million for Nokia, $400 for Algoma, and $15 billion for Stellantis. And what is the government getting in exchange? Job losses. Is this the new Liberal strategy, making Canadians poorer to make big business richer? Is that it, Mr. Speaker? The Honourable Minister for Government Transformation. On this side of the House, we believe it's essential to support the sectors impacted by the tariff war with the U.S. But my colleague voted against a tax cut that would represent $800 per family in Canada and Quebec. She voted against the National School Food Program that would save $800 per vulnerable family. She voted against the Canada Dental Care Plan, which would help at least 10,000 people in her own riding of Bellechasse. She voted against things like investments in the Davie shipyard, which is struggling to find the skilled workers it needs. I hope she will change her mind and vote in favor of these government programs.
Windsor West. Mr. Speaker, the Feed Ontario Hunger Report shows over 1 million Ontarians went to food banks 8.7 million times over the last year. That's the highest ever. While Canadians are struggling, this Liberal Prime Minister has handed over billions to big corporations with zero job guarantees. $400 million to Algoma, 1,000 jobs lost. $15 billion to Stellantis, 3,000 jobs gone. Why does this Prime Minister always make taxpayers pay for his sweetheart corporate deals while Canadians go hungry?
Secretary of State for Sport.
Mr. Speaker, those food security experts and poverty elimination companies, they do a great job advocating directly to government, and what they are saying is we need more affordable housing. In the last 2 weeks alone, Mr. Speaker, we've announced 857 new co-op housing. And that's really close to home for me, Mr. Speaker, because I'm proud to grow up in co-op housing. Unlike some of the Conservatives who like to call it Soviet-style housing or degrade affordable housing as shacks or something like that, Mr. Speaker, we're creating more jobs.
Shacks.
We're creating opportunity for Canadians. And every single time we bring a motion forward in this House to provide that care to Canadians, whether it's through child care or dental care or affordable food in schools, Mr. Speaker, they vote against it.
The Honourable Member for Middlesex London.
Speaker, food banks are seeing record demand while this Prime Minister keeps shuffling taxpayer dollars at multinationals with zero job guarantees. At CAMI, pink slips are hitting kitchen tables and it's just weeks before Christmas. Families across Middlesex London are losing their paychecks and they can't afford to buy groceries. The minister said that she'd get an update from GM, but it's been 40 days and she's got nothing. No plan, no transparency, no jobs. So why does this Prime Minister keep making Canadians pay the price for his financial incompetence?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
Monsieur le Président, lorsque les conservateurs ont voté contre...
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives voted against Budget 2025.
I speak French. That was not French. I don't know what the hell that was.
Against help for Canadians. They voted against the guaranteed revenue supplement. Guaranteed income supplement, rather. They voted against the New Horizons program for seniors. They voted against the tax credit for personal care workers. And they voted against dental care for millions of Canadian seniors.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Northwest.
It's been 8 months
months since the Prime Minister was elected, claiming he would build nation-building projects at speeds not seen in generations. Now we've learned that he hasn't even started consultations. He could have started these within weeks of the last election, given the existential crisis that he claimed. The Prime Minister's incoming Heritage Minister said consultation should have begun yesterday, taking a shot at the Prime Minister, and that you can't do consultations on a desktop, taking another shot at the Natural Resources Minister, who said it could be done by Zoom. Has the Prime Minister avoided consultation with First Nations because he doesn't care about them, or because he doesn't want a pipeline built?
The Honourable Minister for Crown Indigenous Relations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our relationship with our partners, First Nations, Métis, Indigenous rights holders, is of utmost importance. With major projects, consultation and the duty to accommodate will be adhered to. There is no major projects before us right now. This is just an MOU. It is the process that is outlining the conditions to be met. Major projects will require the duty to consult. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Langley Township, Fraser Heights.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Liberal Keep It in the Ground caucus is saying that the MOU with Alberta is not a pipeline approval. There is no project, no route, certainly no consensus, and no private sector proponent. Now, they're conveniently hiding behind the tanker ban, which is preventing us from getting our resources to market, all the while American tankers are happily sailing right by from Alaska down to the lower 48. So, simple question, will the Prime Minister lift the tanker ban so that we can build a pipeline, or is this just a pipe dream?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, we are in a trade war. It's time to recognize that.
Then act like
Our
it.
agreement with Alberta is about a Team Canada plan to strengthen our hand and put Canada in
They
a
don't
position
even
to win
believe what
that
the
trade
fuck
war.
they're saying.
We're going to do
It's
it by
so
growing exports
obvious.
beyond a single customer and driving down emissions with strong industrial carbon pricing and a commitment to major decarbonization projects in partnership with jurisdictions and in partnership with First Nations.
Honourable Member for Fleetwood Port Kells.
Mr. Speaker, this past weekend, important discussions were held in Surrey, British Columbia on strengthening our law enforcement and intelligence agencies to combat extortion. Protecting Canadians has never been more critical. Yet, the Conservative play political games and stall measures like Bill C-2, preventing law enforcement from getting the key tools they need to protect Canadians. Can the Minister of Public Safety please outline
Read
the
your
steps
script, little boy.
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, first of all, let me thank the member from Fleetwood Port Kells for the very important question and his hard work. Mr. Speaker, we're taking real action to fight extortion. Last week we had a summit in Surrey, British Columbia that brought together the government of British Columbia. We brought together law enforcement, the extortion task force, as well as municipal leaders in order to ensure that we're all on the same page and we're fighting this fight together, Mr. Speaker. But unfortunately, the Conservatives continue to play games, Mr. Speaker. They're opposing critical bills that will strengthen law enforcement. So I urge the Conservative Party to come on board and support.
The Honourable Member for Saskatoon West.
Mr. Speaker, when the new Minister of Culture was Immigration Minister, he said, quote, "I don't see a world in which we lower immigration targets. Whether we revise them upwards or not is something that I have to look at, but certainly I don't think we will lower them," end quote. Then in 2024, he made history by allowing nearly 500,000 permanent residents into the country, the highest ever in a single year. Today, we're in a national housing crisis, emergency rooms are overflowing, and we're in a youth jobs crisis. Mr. Speaker, how does the current immigration minister feel about holding the bag for a Trudeau-era guy who just got promoted for making a big mess?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration. The Honourable Minister of Immigration. Okay, whoa, we're gonna have to let some time go by here because everyone's getting very excited every time the Secretary of State gets up. The Secretary of State for Rural Development.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm practicing my French.
Oh my God.
The Saskatchewan Conservative Caucus, there was 14 of them elected over a period of 10 years. That's 140 collective years that we've had conservative representation from Saskatchewan, Mr. Speaker. And you tell me, what have they accomplished in those 10 years, Mr. Speaker? On housing, on trade, on infrastructure. They have accomplished nothing, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Quite the indictment when they don't even let the immigration minister answer a question about immigration. In a CBC interview back when he was the immigration minister.
I give the floor to the member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Oh man, this is funny today.
In a CBC interview back when he was immigration minister, the new Minister of Culture dismissed Premier's pleas for support for a flood of Liberal-enabled fraudulent asylum claims by saying, I think what they, the Premiers, are advancing is a complete crock of bleep. In reality, he oversaw billions of dollars going to house bogus asylum claimants while emergency room overflowed. So my question is this: if that failed immigration minister can get a promotion, does this mean that the current prime minister will promote the current one too?
The honourable Minister for Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship.
Speaker, thank you very much. Let me thank this colleague and this member for placing her confidence in me and in this government. Let me tell you one thing. Canadians elected this government with a big mandate.
She doesn't even know what she's supposed to say.
Budget that includes a sustainable immigration plan, one that will deal with permanent immigration as well as the temporary immigration and bring our global talent. Why does that member and her party keep obstructing every single time? Get on board!
Again, through the chair. The honourable member for Calgary Nose Hill.
It's so bad. Okay, in all seriousness, in 2022, a Jamaican national was convicted in the United States of an aggravated felony of sexual abuse of a minor. But in 2023, the Liberals welcomed him to Canada. Worse, they allowed him to claim asylum, and today, that child sexual abuser is still in Canada. The Liberals voted against Conservative measures to prevent non-citizen child sexual abusers from entering Canada, abusing our immigration system, and avoiding deportation. Why are they protecting non-citizen child sexual abusers? Why didn't they support our policies?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, Canada has a robust system of inadmissibility that ensures that those who are not eligible to be in here will be removed, Mr. Speaker. This year we are on target to remove over 20,000 people who are ineligible to be here, including those with criminal offenses. But let me be very clear, Mr. Speaker. The party opposite, the sanctimony that they put forward on issues of public safety needs to be checked when they oppose the very tools that public safety officers need to do their job effectively, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Labrador.
Mr. Speaker, it's been 19 years since the First Nations Fiscal Management Act came into force, thanks to the leadership and determination of First Nations across Canada. Since then, the Act has evolved into a highly successful and robust system that supports First Nations with fiscal management, local taxation, and access to pooled borrowing. Can the Minister update this House on the important work underway to advance Indigenous economic prosperity? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Minister for Crown Indigenous Relations.
Budget 2025 proposes important updates to the First Nations Fiscal Management Act that will enable the First Nations Finance Authority to lend to special purpose vehicles. For Indigenous communities, this makes it easier for multiple nations to work together, borrow as a group, and lower administrative costs. They also provide access to better borrowing rates and more opportunities to take equity in major projects and infrastructure. With improved access to financing, communities can create good jobs, grow local businesses, and build lasting prosperity for future generations. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's incredible that this member has become the new Minister of Official Languages. That member said again this morning that he's tired of doing something about the decline of French. But I have news.
Live and let live, man.
Party of Canada will be
Like,
fighting
at what
for the
point do
rights
these
of
idiots realize you
Francophones
can't
throughout the
force
country.
shit on people?
Even
It
the
doesn't
Premier of
work.
Quebec said that it was a crying shame that that person has become Minister of Official Languages. Is the new Quebec lieutenant just as tired of fighting the decline of French, like his colleague at Heritage said? The Honourable Minister of Canadian Identity and Culture. Mr. Speaker, indeed, French is declining throughout Canada. And what I am unhappy about is the hypocrisy of these Conservatives, who voted against our plan for French with $4.1 billion to be spent throughout Canada to make French stronger in our country. When I was Minister of Immigration, I doubled Francophone immigration outside Quebec. The Conservatives voted against that, and they voted against the $4.1 billion plan. What is truly a shame is their hypocrisy.
Member for Nunavut.
Living downstream from the oil sands, the Mikisew First Nations have higher rates of cancer. Yet this government is developing regulations to allow affected water to be released into the Athabasca River. UNDRIP and their Environmental Racism Act must be implemented to protect the health of First Nations. How can the Liberals proceed with regulations knowing that Mikisew First Nations have not given consent because they are dying from cancer?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pollution from the oil sands tailings ponds is a serious issue, and we acknowledge and take seriously the concerns raised by nearby Indigenous communities in the region. We are currently supporting a study of health impacts on nearby communities, and there is a Crown Indigenous working group that is working on water release standards. We're committed to protecting Canada's environment and the health of communities, and of course the Indigenous communities nearby.
The Honourable Member for Kootenay-Alberni.
Mr. Speaker, our healthcare system is already stretched, yet the federal government piles on needless work. The College of Family Physicians warns that the disability tax credit form is worsening the strain and costing patients access to care. Instead of fixing it, Budget 2025 allocates $10 million to help people navigate the same broken system. Provinces already determine disability eligibility. Why won't the minister automatically accept provincial approval for the disability tax credit to reduce barriers and let family doctors focus on patient care?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Speaker, it's historic. For the first time in this country, we have a disability tax benefit, and I want to thank all parliamentarians that supported this. Unfortunately, again, the Conservatives voted against the very people they say they wish to help. But, Mr. Speaker, Budget 2025 actually goes a step further, and it compensates people for the burden, financial burden of filing, getting doctors' forms to file for their credit. And, Mr. Speaker, we will continue to work with people who are living with disabilities to make sure that they have every opportunity to thrive in Canadian society.
And that concludes question period today.
Oh, thank fuck. Man, that was funny. Oh my goodness. When that foreign dude with the foreign accent was reading a Canadian script and trying to manufacture outrage to the Conservatives as a Liberal, that was comedic gold. Oh my goodness. I'm really good at those accents, by the way. I'm pretty good. Because I went to a very multicultural high school. And all my friends in high school, they were all brown and Asian. And they forced me, by watching Russell Peters and going to their homes, they forced me to learn the accents. Because it's fun. It was good stuff back then. I'm not going to do it now, but one of these days, I'm going to just straight up. You know what I'm saying? Just one of these days, I'm just going to let loose. Anyways. I don't feel like doing it right now. I'm a little sick. Which foreign dude? The brown guy that was speaking with an accent so thick that I don't even know if subtitles would have automatically been generated. That guy. Anyways, see you guys tomorrow. Okay.